Welcome back to another tutorial video on the T-62. I wasn't actually planning to do this, however, I guess circumstance allowed for a good learning opportunity to do a little teaching moment. Hopefully this will come out on camera well, but if you look, you'll see that in the decal in a couple of places, bubbles have formed. Now, this can sometimes happen when you're working with an oddly shaped piece and trying to decal it. But it's a phenomenon that's easily rectified. You're going to want to take a new X-Acto blade. Again, a new one. Don't want to use a dull, older blade. Always use a new blade for this. And you're just going to very carefully pop the bubbles. By doing this, it will allow the decal setting solution to get down in there and bring the decal down. But again, what causes these bubbles is basically the decal not conforming to the surface properly. Again, because it's oddly shaped. And yeah, while decal stuff solutions do help with this, you will still sometimes have to deal with this. It's not anything, I would say, catastrophic. It's just a minor annoyance. But anyway, once you do have all the bubbles pop, you're again going to want to cover the decal completely in decal solution. And again, you want to do the entire decal, not just the individual areas, as it's better to be safe and not stress the decal. Excuse me. So anyway, the next step is to do the next gloss coat in preparation for doing a wash. Now I'm going to do the actual spraying off camera, as it's basically the same as I've done before and I've already shown, so there's no real need for me to show it again. However, one thing I will discuss is when you do this, you want to use a type of paint other than what you're going to use the wash with. Now, I like using enamel-based paints for doing the wash. They're real easy to thin and clean up. I would not recommend using acrylics or lacquers, as in case of acrylics, I have not had any luck getting that paint up after you've done the wash. I've actually managed to basically destroy a kit that I had basically had done, finished, decaled, all of that by doing this. So don't use acrylics. Similarly with lacquers, the problem with them is that you get them up, you have to use lacquer paint, and that, since that is really heavy and caustic stuff, it will eat through the lower layers of paint potentially, and obviously you don't want that. So because right now I don't have access to a lacquer gloss coat, I'm going to use Tamiya's acrylic clear gloss to overcoat the entire thing in preparation. One thing to note when working with acrylic paint, or at least airbrushing it, you want to be very careful of pooling, because it dries slower than lacquers and the like. You are going to have to worry about too much paint building up too quickly. One way to potentially mitigate this a little is to do it in bright sunlight, as that will help basically get the paint to dry a little quicker, since it is water or alcohol based. Now, bright hot sun will basically help it dry faster. However, this obviously is a catch-22 in that you do run the risk of paint drying in the air before it hits the model. Excuse me. Yeah, so that is something to be aware of. Additionally, because acrylics take longer to cure, again, difference between drying and curing is the outer coat of the paint has dried, and you can some degree handle it, but you really shouldn't. Whereas curing is where the paint has chemically settled and bonded. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera, and when I come back I'll discuss doing washes. So we now have given the clear coat a chance to cure up, and it's now ready to move on to the next step, which is to give it a pin wash. Now, since we're not going for a very heavy weathered look, a pin wash is a great way to just bring out small details, spot details, wherever you need to do it. Now, I've gone ahead and thinned down a mix of flat black enamel paint. I typically want to have it fairly loose and runny. You don't want to have it too thick, and I would say a good measuring point where it is if you thin it like you would for airbrushing and then basically double the thinner from there. But for the most part, it's just, you're going to have to basically eyeball it, and it's really one of those things you just sort of get a hang for as you go. So, now, nice thing about adding the clear coat is it allows for the paint to just run on its own around all the edges and seams. As you can see here with this light, I'm basically just gently touching the tip of the brush, and the paint will run on its own into all the little crevices and nooks and crannies, and gives a very nice bit of detail. Okay. Now at this stage we're not going to worry too much about excess, as we'll be cleaning that up in a little bit. Now you basically want to do it around places where dirt and other such things would collect. Edges between panels, low areas, and really anywhere you want to, give a sense of depth to. Now, depending on exactly what you do modeling, what color you use will vary. Flat black is generally your basic standard color, though depending on location where you're applying the weathering to and the subject matter and so forth, obviously you want to use a different color dependent. You probably use different browns and burnt colors and so forth to bring out and apply for different type of weathering conditions, be it desert, snow, or forest, or what have you. Generally, we'll want to just try and match the color of the weathering to the area you want to depict. Now, one thing you notice that I'm doing is that I am continuously stirring the paint to keep the mix of paint even. That's mainly due to the fact that because the paint's so thin, the paint particles will want to settle a lot more easily as opposed to unthinned paint. So one way to make sure you're still drawing paint and not just thinner is to keep stirring. Now, just about done applying the wash to this. I just need to hit a couple more spots. Again, you just want to keep going and really apply to anywhere you want to. This is where you can really fine-tune and make your models unique in that how the weathering is applied is never going to be the same, as there will always be subtle differences and differences. So just about got it. I think that will basically do it. Now, as I said, since we're not going for a super heavy weathered look, this is where we'd stop. If we were going to do more weathering, we would obviously first clean this up and then, do whatever we're going to do next, be it using pastels that, simulate dirt and grime, or paint chipping, or what have you. Now, in the effort to try and expedite things, let me move this out of the way. I've gone ahead and did the rest of the body, and as you can see, it's now had a chance to set up some. Now, the one nice thing about enamels is, you can leave it for a long while, it'll dry, and you can come back with thinner, and it'll still come off. One thing I do want to say beforehand, in my personal sort of modeling experience, I have not had much luck using acrylics to do this method. In fact, I actually ruined a P47, which, if you follow my review videos, you saw me do the review video for. Yeah, I used an acrylic because I was out of lacquer thinner or lacquer gloss, and trying to get that paint off, I destroyed the paint scheme, and just, yeah, I wrecked that kit trying to get that paint off. So yeah, fair warning, do not use Testors acrylics for this. They will not come off unless you literally strip it down back to the plastic. So, fair warning. Now, and some others will say they can use acrylics just fine. Just in my experience, it's better to use enamels. So, now I've got my Tester enamel thinner, and I like to use a piece of tissue. Some people will use cotton swabs. I just prefer this, as gets a good mix of thinner, but not too much, obviously. So now, you're just going to gently rub. Now, if you're working, depending on what you're modeling, you'll want to obviously adjust your methodology accordingly, such as in case of aircraft, you'd want to do this in the direction of airflow, but here it's not as critical. So basically, you want to keep doing this across the whole model until you're satisfied with the level of grime. Now, this could be as little or as much as you want. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up off camera, and then let's see. Yeah, we're just about out of time anyway, so when we come back, I'll talk about how to do painting up the treads.